Welcome back. Oh, people are quitting all over the place, and it's not always a bad thing. However, if you have the experience and you've been successful at something, then quitting probably isn't the right thing to do. Dave Duncan joins us, who didn't quit for a reason. He has sales records over the course of his career, averaging 50 transactions per year since 1986 and over 100 per year since 2000. Welcome back, Dave. How are you?
It's good to be back. I'm good, Ben. Thanks.
I know you were probably watching the Masters or out playing, one or the other.
Actually, I watched the whole back nine.
The Bubba Watson amazingness.
Two of the greatest shots I think I've ever seen between Oosthuizen's double eagle and then Bubba's
Bender. Well, Dave, welcome. And it's you're back. The real estate market changes. It seems like every day. And, you were actually, you're in meetings with 115 agents discussing kind of the market as a whole. Talk a little bit about what's going on in this real estate market that changes, it seems, as fast as the stock market.
You know, it's so true. I've said for a long time that real estate's changed more in the last 2 or 3 years than the prior 30. And it is almost daily, like you say. It's changed a lot, especially people that have watched it the last 5 years where we had the big peaks. And then the big crash, and then, when are we going to hit the bottom? Well, the worst is definitely behind us. Inventory is shrinking, and, that's the conversation in our last office meeting was about just that. How do you help your people get their offers accepted?
Mm-hmm. And so you'd brought up this, the conversation, the meeting, and so getting your offer accepted, that's something that a lot of people are out fighting for houses right now, which is, 180 degrees from where we were just a few months ago, let alone a year ago.
Yeah, the challenge is, they're out, and we've talked about this before, they're out there looking at a house, and they may find something they like, and they're excited about it. But then there's always mom or dad or wise Uncle Ernie.
It's Uncle the plumber. It's the uncle who's a plumber. Always has an opinion.
And today, that can cost you your house. Now, if you're lukewarm or ambivalent about it, make the offer, play the game. But if it's a house you really want, you really got to trust your realtor, and there's certain things you can do to increase your odds of it being accepted.
What are some of those things you can do to increase your odds of having an offer accepted?
The obvious stuff that realtors have done forever is increase your earnest money. It just shows you're a little more serious. Obviously, raising the price is the common one that's been used for years and years and years. But, the problem with that...
Before you move on, increasing earnest money, right? Isn't that kind of like a joke? We're going to increase our earnest money, which really doesn't do anything because you can always get out of the property at some point in time, whether it's first few days. So isn't that kind of a hokey way of doing it?
It's not the most effective for a veteran agent. If I'm on the other side of the table and I'm competing with that, I'll use that argument. If I'm on your side of the table, I'll have you probably use a different argument.
Sure.
My job is to get that person the house.
Right. Okay, so increasing earnest money, price, certainly a big one.
And that's the most obvious one and the most commonly used one. The dangers appraisals. We've all fought appraisal problems. I had the most creative one I've heard ever was one of our listings. It wasn't mine, but it was about 5 offers on a property that had been on the market like 3 days. And the successful agent actually was full price, all the agreed upon terms. But on the addendum, my agent had to do a double take because he said, "Are you sure you don't have this backwards? It says buyer to pay $6,000 of seller's closing costs." So that was that'd be you got to really prepare your buyer in advance so they're on board with it. Maybe they won't do that until they've lost a few houses because nothing makes a buyer a good buyer until they've lost a few. So but that worked. That guy got it.
So do you raise is it essentially built into the purchase price? How does it work?
It's in essence like paying $6,000 more, but the catch is you got to have cash to do it.
Sure.
It's not for everybody, but in that case, it worked for that particular buyer.
I have not heard that before.
30 years I haven't either.
Well, it's certainly creative. So that's kind of a raise to price in some ways. You're helping that seller net some more money, and I guess the net is really the same to them.
It's the bottom line is the net, whether you're dealing with banks or mom and pop kettle, it's all about the net.
Yeah. What are some other big ways you've seen or you've had agents in your office?
Excuse me. The guy we've hired as our broker, he was competing with 14 of their offers recently.
Wow.
And he didn't do that last technique, but he did everything else. He increased earnest money. He did raise the price. He communicated with the listing agent and got buy-in from the listing agent that, and the listing agent, he's lucky he agreed that he'd communicate with him and give him one of the last few shots. And he's pretty relentless and persistent guy anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then it was kind of a combination of things in that case.
So you start getting into not just price, but kind of the terms you're willing to buy a house. And I mean, there's a laundry list of terms, right?
There are. The other biggie, but as agents, we got to be very careful about how we recommend it, is the inspection. A good listing agent will say, waive the inspection and you're in. And but as a representing a buyer, we absolutely can't do that. We always have to encourage somebody to get an inspection so they know what they're getting. Now they can really limit what they request from the seller as a result of that, like we'd have to do on bank-owned homes. But that said, I would never discourage somebody from an inspection.
Yeah, we've done a lot of discussion here, and waiving that a $500 cost to figure out what you're buying for maybe $500,000 doesn't seem to be a good idea. To just, hey, we don't care. It's like buying a used car and not going to a mechanic.
Even if you know the seller's not going to do a darn thing, you got to spend the money so you know what you're getting.
Right. I mean, it would certainly make sense. It's a big investment otherwise, and you don't know what your costs after the fact would be.
Exactly. The other thing we're seeing, and then we're talking about multiple offers, but it's more commonplace than not. Right now, Ben, I always have a couple stats, but right now inventories, these are Snohomish County stats, not King County, but they're
for our listeners up north.
For our listeners up north.
That's right.
I'll be better prepared next time for you King County people.
It's outside my bubble, Dave.
But we are down under 3 months worth of inventory, where we had a peak of 10 and 12 months. Going back at the toughest times. We actually have less inventory today. And I was looking at Alan Pope. He has some great stats that we have available online. And his reports went back to 2006. Then I had a buddy go back beyond that. And we have less inventory right now in Snohomish County than we've had in over 10 years. The smallest number of homes for sale. The other interesting stats, the absorption numbers. And that's basically, if you have X amount of inventory, what percentage sells in a given month. And usually it's, using the same numbers, it'd be 25, 30%. There's always new stuff going to market. But the staggering stat I've got with me here today is in March, it was 63.9% of the inventory sold.
So technically that would be like 2 months. Less than 2
months.
That's incredible.
It is.
We're here with Dave Duncan, broker with Keller Williams and the Dave Duncan Group. Dave, so when you look at these absorption rates and you look at how little inventory there is, what's going through the minds of buyers?
It's probably a lot of frustration because they've been conditioned to, I can take my time, I can make offers, I can get these great concessions, but then they just see that they lose the house left and right, and that's what's happening right now. So it's got to be confusion, and unfortunately, a lot of them are losing houses they really would have liked to have had because they can't adjust or adapt quickly enough.
I mean, it comes back 5 years ago. I remember it was similar, but everybody feels like they didn't make a good decision then, so it's tough to go back to those ways.
Yeah, it's definitely a mindset shift, which, again, it depends on personality type, whether you adapt quickly enough. But again, you lose enough houses, you're going to be a better buyer.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about, so somebody goes out, they've been conditioned to be able to take their time. Now they go out, maybe they don't get the house. Maybe they don't use these strategies of getting the offer accepted. Is it frustration? I mean, what is it? Just they don't like the process? Is it, I mean, how do you as an agent help them maybe, soften the landing of not getting the houses and buying again in a place where they're not 100% confident in the market?
That's a great question. It all starts with the beginning when you sit down with them the first time, and setting the right expectations, giving them a history, just saying, hey, I'm not saying we got to make a great offer because because I want to sell you a house. You explain the history. It was this way. You show them the numbers, show them the stats. Another agent in my office, one thing he routinely does is if they go out once and they see 5 houses, when he sees them again 3 days later or a week later, he'll show proof that, at 4 pending and only one of those are left. And, maybe they didn't like any of them. So all of a sudden that's a little wake-up call. It's really just educating them along the way.
You talk about wake-up calls and the education. Is there a fear now? I mean, is that fear of loss setting in? Rates are going to go up. All the houses are going to be sold.
There's a lot of that now. It's starting to happen, but I had 2 calls today where the guys are no urgency. It doesn't matter about rates or inventory. It's just when they're ready, they're ready. And you know what? That person that may be buying $280 today, like the stats we had last time I was on the show, might be rates bump a tad and they're at 220.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's a dangerous game, especially if it's a house you're looking to live in. Because if you find the house you want in the right school district, with the right yard, maybe it's near your friends or whatnot, whatever factors are important to you, then you don't get maybe second and third and fourth chances because of the impending potential interest rates going up and the potential for house prices to go up.
I know a few people that have been bitten by that, and they regret not making the decision earlier.
Yep.
There's always something else around the corner, yet sometimes there's not. So
that's a good real estate pun. There's always something else around the corner.
Just call me Yogi.
Again, we're here with Dave Duncan. Dave, just one more question for you. So when people go out, and they've gone through this process, do you think people are smart to wait for the perfect house rather than just getting excited and kind of getting caught up?
What we teach in the first consultation is you have I got to have these features list. Then you got these, I really want these features list. And then you got the third one, which is these are things I'd like to have, but it's not urgent. And then you just got to prioritize it. And you make the best decision you can, because the truth is there's no such thing as a perfect house. Even if you build it, you draw the plans, I guarantee by the time it's framed, you're already wanting to move this wall or that wall. So there's no such thing. Yeah,
well, I think that's a really key point, Dave. You get into those, what do you need? Because there's certain things you can't give up on. I guess until you know what they are, you talk about them and have them on paper or whatnot, it's much tougher to stick to that plan.
Exactly.
Well, Dave, thanks so much for joining us again. Dave Duncan, broker with Dave Duncan Group of Keller Williams. When we come back, a lot of people do want to sell their house, and they're not really sure of all the options they have. As Dave was talking about, people have options in what they want to buy. You can buy in the right school district, the right yard, tons of things, right? Bedrooms, bathrooms. But what options do you have if you want to sell? We're going to let you know when we come back from this break. I'm Ben Brashen. You're listening to Brashenomics.